We all know when it's this cold outside, our pets should spend more time inside. But the city of Miami is working to find out what can be done when that isn't the case. Health experts warn we might be in store for yearly COVID-19 vaccine boosters. And we meet Missouri Southern's new head football coach.
The four states' most watched news starts now.
Bad news, it's staying cold for the next several days. This is KOAM News at 10. We go straight now to Nick Kelly.
And if you don't mind me counterbalancing that with a little bit of good news, Dow, we are seeing this wave that brought us light snow and light freezing rain today move on out. So it'll break in the action before it picks back up before you know it. 20 degrees for a high today, 17. That was the best we could do with our numbers today. The winter weather advisories that were in effect for much of the area today is now back down to Berry, Benton County until 6 o'clock in the morning ahead of us. Again, the wave that worked on through is already actually working over to St. Louis Metro right now. They have some snow across northern parts of Missouri. The southern Ozarks are dealing with some lingering freezing rain and snow, while around here, we just have the cloudy skies and maybe some random snow flurries flying about. Temperatures, cold, no doubt about it. 14 in Iola, 20 in Grove. Everyone stays cold for tonight, with temperatures in our northwestern counties trying to drop back near 10. Everyone else will mainly be in the teens. I see Joplin dropping back to 15 in the morning. And I think the best we can do tomorrow, even though we don't have much in the way of moisture, we'll only see highs topping out around 21. Plenty to talk about over the next several days. Dow will break down the full forecast coming up in a bit.
All right, we'll see you soon. Thanks, Nick. In this weather, obviously, people need to be inside, but because of the pandemic, people also need to avoid close contact with others. That creates a problem for warming stations where people can come in to escape the cold. The Joplin Salvation Army is trying to mitigate the risk by having people come inside in shifts. That way, no large group is congregating at once. Salvation Army Lieutenant Marty Morris tells us that pandemic or not, they will find a way to help people.
It's hard to explain because, it's something that we do, and we just take care of the people as they come in. We don't sit there and consider ourselves better than anybody else or not. We just get out there and help them.
Joplin's Souls Harbor tells us they're allowing people to warm up in their chapel at 817 Main Street. Though winter weather presents continued challenges for road crews across the four states, KDOT has had road crews out almost non-stop since Sunday, clearing state highways across southeast Kansas. They've had 27 trucks out, putting out hundreds of tons of salt and chemicals to melt the ice. So far, they've had no trouble restocking on salt and plan to watch conditions closely into the overnight hours.
This is what we do. Our people have done this for a long time. They're very experienced in what they do. The main thing is to get out to the public. We just need to be careful when the conditions are like this, especially when they're really cold and you got moisture. Those two things are critical, moisture and cold. And if it gets too cold and too much moisture, you have big problems.
Nelson says if conditions don't get worse into the overnight hours, they'll be able to take a break tonight, but they plan to get out as soon as the roads do get worse. On the Missouri side, MoDOT crews are running all day and night to keep roads safe. They're applying a sand and salt mixture and ask that while they're doing that, drivers stay well away from their trucks.
Right where they're treating, it may not be in the best, it still could be ice right now because it takes a little bit for the salt to melt it. Stay back. We don't, you don't want to get up underneath them because they're trying to treat the road. We'd hate for somebody to have to shut our sanders and spinners off because a car was too close to us.
MoDOT says if you can, it's best to just stay home. Now today's KOAM News Now Insta poll, we're asking, has the pandemic affected your preparedness for cold weather? Do you feel more prepared, less prepared, or is there really no difference? You can participate in the Insta poll on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com, or through the KOAM News app. Results are updated live, and we're going to check in on the final results a little bit later in this newscast, so participate now. The cold weather raises concerns in Miami for pets, specifically one dog named Boomer. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky has more.
Boomer has been the talk of the town. He gained his popularity on Facebook, where disturbed Miami residents posted their worry for the dog's well-being. Joe Honeycutt grew up in Miami. Although he no longer lives there, he is still active in the community and decided to take action online.
Well, I had been reading several posts that day that were related to this same dog, and I wanted to kind of get to the bottom of what was going on and see if there was any way that I could help influence the situation.
Joe says he used Facebook to reach Boomer's owner.
I decided to go onto the public website and make a post. And I reached out to the gentleman himself. And I had told him that there is such an importance to leaving your animals inside in the cold.
And this outrage from the community online is what caused police to get more involved. Miami Police Chief Thomas Anderson says they had a meeting with city officials after the dogs rise online.
The city manager, after receiving numerous complaints, wanted to make sure that the situation was controlled and where the city's doing everything we can within the law to make sure this animal's, taken care of.
Anderson says they've known about the issue since November of last year. Boomer's actually gotten a lot better since then, and according to Anderson, gained 40 pounds. He says animal control is involved, which helped.
He's taking way better care of the animal than he was just a few months ago, and that's because our animal control has done a great job of working with him for the benefit of the animal.
Anderson clarifies that he's glad the community is looking out for these animals, but they know Boomer is doing better.
If you see an animal that is out, let's check on him. I know we've got numerous calls on this one, but we know this dog has improved and has everything he needs to have.
In Miami, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Anderson says animal control is keeping close tabs on Boomer. Still ahead, House impeachment managers try to make their case with dramatic videos from the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. And 2 shots might not be enough. We're going to hear why some health professionals fear that the COVID-19 vaccine could become a yearly routine. The Senate gavelled in at noon for the start of the House impeachment manager's presentation to Senate jurors. With the help of extensive video, they're arguing that former President Trump began inciting the mob even prior to his big speech on the day of last month's deadly attack. Natalie Brand has more from Capitol Hill exactly 5 weeks after that riot took place.
House managers are spending the day of the Senate impeachment trial laying out their case that former President Trump directly incited the January 6th Capitol attack.
Donald Trump surrendered his role as commander-in-chief and became the inciter-in-chief.
Law enforcement entries. DSO, get up there.
To make the case, House managers used never-before-seen video, including footage from U.S. Capitol security cameras, to help illustrate the extent of the assault.
Officer Goodman passes Senator Mitt Romney and directs him to turn around in order to get to safety.
The left lies, they cheat, and they steal.
House managers also argued that the former president's words and actions prior to that day primed rioters to travel to Washington on January 6th.
He built this mob over many months with repeated messaging until they believed that they had been robbed of their vote.
House managers will have up to 2 days for their arguments. Then on Friday, the clock starts for the president's legal team, who will also have up to 16 hours for their case.
One of the former president's top Senate allies, Lindsey Graham, says he spoke to Mr. Trump after his defense attorney's presentation on Tuesday was widely criticized. Senator Graham said he told the president, quote, "The case is over. It's just a matter of getting a final verdict down."
I will listen to these arguments as I did to the arguments yesterday with an open mind.
Assuming that all Senate Democrats and independents vote to convict, House managers would have to convince at least 17 Republicans to join them. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Today, the former president's lawyers pushed back on reports that Mr. Trump was unhappy with their performance yesterday. Missouri teachers might not be fully vaccinated for COVID-19 until the end of the school year. The Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services says teachers will get their first dose of the vaccine in April, meaning they likely won't get the second dose until early summer. Meanwhile, the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education told lawmakers today they're encouraging schools to return to in-person learning. They hosted webinars sharing research that shows transmission of the virus in schools is low with preventative measures such as masks and social distancing. The CDC is changing its quarantine recommendations for Americans who've been fully vaccinated against COVID-19 The agency now says they do not have to quarantine if they're exposed to someone who's infected. The caveat is that applies only to the people who received 2 doses of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine, but only after 2 weeks has passed since the final dose. The CDC is also warning immunity can wear off. And 3 months post-vaccination, people should monitor for symptoms and possibly quarantine. Close to 34 million Americans have received at least one vaccine dose. About 10.5 million of them have been fully vaccinated, according to the CDC. As the number of Americans getting vaccinated against COVID-19 continues to rise, so do concerns over the highly contagious virus variants. This led some to suggest the need for a yearly COVID shot, much like the flu vaccine. Mandy Gaither has more.
Across the U.S., the race against coronavirus variants continues. About 1 in 10 Americans have now received at least 1 dose of the vaccine.
I already had COVID, and so I'm a little bit nervous because of the reinfection rate. That's the big thing right now. I wasn't as nervous. I was going to wait it out and wait till later on when it's not so urgent, but I thought I better get in on it now because of the reinfection.
Only one state now, Alaska, is showing an upward trend in coronavirus cases, but new CDC data shows nearly 950 known cases of the highly contagious virus variants in the U.S. CEO of vaccine maker Johnson & Johnson now suggesting those mutations may mean an annual COVID shot will be needed for years to come. The company asked the FDA for an emergency use authorization of its vaccine last week, and a green light could further boost vaccination doses available across the U.S.
Supply will increase, and we have to make sure that American public sees the data and has reliable sources to go to so they increase their comfort in being able to take the vaccine.
A new Gallup poll of more than 4,000 Americans taken at the end of January shows 71% of those surveyed are now willing to get COVID-19 vaccines, but 2/3 were not satisfied with how vaccination is going in the U.S. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
In that Gallup poll, of those unwilling to get a vaccine, most said they were concerned about the rushed development of the vaccines. Others said they want to wait and see that it's safe and effective. Nick Kelly is up next with his complete forecast, and later we're going to hear from Missouri Southern's new head football coach.
A lot to unpack for the next 3 minutes or so let's just dive right in, starting as always with our time-lapse from Indigo Sky outside of Seneca, Missouri. It showed yet another cloudy day, and with another wave that worked on through, we had some areas of light snow flurries, and some light freezing drizzle. Thankfully, those amounts stayed very minimal, as we advertised yesterday. We have winter weather advisories still in effect, but they've been slowly getting trimmed back ever since the evening got started. We still have technically Berry and Benton County under the advisory until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. For the most part, though, we're done with this wave. It's working across the eastern parts of Missouri into southern Illinois. Underneath our mostly cloudy skies, there might still be some lingering flurries, but that's about the worst our sky conditions will stay as we head throughout the course of the overnight hours. As for where we sit right now, you don't need me to tell you it's cold. We are stuck at 15 at Joplin Regional with the north breeze at 9, making it feel like 3. Elsewhere around the region, 14 in Iola, 20 in Grove, everybody else right in between the two. So these are pretty much where temperatures are going to stay, if not drop up a few degrees more as we head throughout the night. While we had to deal with another bout of light snow and light freezing drizzle today, it pales in comparison to the ice storm actually unfolding across parts of the Ohio River Valley. I'm telling you, some folks out that way could see at least half an inch of ice that could lead to numerous power outages with the way things are unfolding out there. At the surface, we still have high pressure, that Arctic high in control, while any semblance of warmer air stays well to the south along the Gulf Coast. In the upper levels, that upper low, that part of the polar vortex still in control just across the Canadian border, but we are watching a weak low passing out of Arizona, and especially another upper low, which you can see out in the Pacific. Both lows wanting to come into play, so let's just break everything down for you right now. We'll stick with cloudy skies throughout the night. Again, as long as that last wave that worked on through today is still close by, we'll keep a few flurries in the forecast. Otherwise, everyone's cold. Some of our northwestern communities could drop back near 10 before we hit sunrise. Most of us, though, will bottom out around 15. And that low spinning around in Arizona, that could send some energy our way and just keep random snow flurries in the forecast. Otherwise, we'll stay cold tomorrow. 19 around lunchtime, and topping out around 21 with the northeast breeze at 5 to 15. Now let's look farther down the road. We are going to keep things quiet for Friday. Mostly cloudy, but will be dry. Another wave that wants to pass on by to the southwest might bring in some random snow showers early Saturday morning on the Kansas and Oklahoma side. Then we look okay for Saturday afternoon. Then people have been asking about the snow chances for Sunday and Monday. It certainly looks like first impressions in the depressive storm system wanting to work in. The main problem is it's still on the Pacific. It has 4 to 5 days before it starts to influence our weather in any way. So we're just keeping accumulating snow chances certainly possible in the forecast, but it's still far too early to say how much snow we'll see out of that. But we'll be on top of things, so just keep checking back often. We'll have changes to the forecast, and we'll definitely have a much better idea of what that system might bring for us over the next couple of days. 21 tomorrow, 20 Friday. 18 on Saturday, 14 for Valentine's Day. If we see any sort of accumulating snow coming out of the Sunday and Monday snow chances down, we could have highs back near 10 early next week and lows as cold as 9 below, numbers that I have not seen since January 2014.
Wow, you have to go back 7 years, I guess, 6 years. That's amazing. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, that was bitterly cold back then, so we need to be very careful about that.
I guess so, dangerously cold, in fact. Thanks. Coming up next in sports, Missouri Southern introduces its next head football coach. Atiba Bradley speaks publicly for the first time as the leader of the program. We're going to hear from the Lions' new head coach just ahead.
Today's a big day for Missouri Southern football. Southern introduces Atiba Bradley as its next head coach, a pick that means history for MSSU and a homecoming for Bradley. Atiba Bradley made history on Wednesday afternoon.
Missouri Southern's new head football coach, Atiba Bradley.
Bradley is the first black head coach in Missouri Southern history.
I think right now there's 5 black head coaches in Division II. I think there's 9 in all divisions, and so I don't take these opportunities lightly. This is a big deal. Because I set the standard for a lot of kids looking up. No different than I looked up to a lot of athletes and coaches. Herm Edwards. Some of those guys that came before me that kind of paved the way for me.
It's a homecoming for Bradley. He played for the Lions from 2002 to 2005 before beginning his coaching career at both the Division I and Division II levels.
When I was young with no kids, it was fun to travel. It was fun to kind of go to different universities and learn. But now as I get older, my kids are getting older, it's good to have them around friends, family, and have a little bit of a support net.
He had the personal qualities that I think will really build a great culture and a great program here at Missouri Southern. And then, of course, coming home. He has roots here as a native of Joplin, a Missouri Southern graduate, a former football player.
Bradley takes over a program that did not get on the field last fall and is 5-39 since 2016.
I'm not naive. It's not going to be easy. This is a tough league. There's great competition, but I'm excited to be back and get this thing turned.
Now that he's the guy, Bradley aims to help the Lions climb the MIAA, including the Crimson and Gold guys down the road.
I think that's the beauty of college athletics, is that we do get to play a team that is 20 minutes down the road. We see them in recruiting, we see them in the league, we see them a lot. And so I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to beat them. You know what I mean? That's part of being here at Missouri Southern.
Bradley says he aims to have his coaching staff complete by next week. He does plan on having interim head coach Joe Batasso stay on his coaching staff. It's basketball now. Mizzou up to number 10 in the nation on the road tonight against Ole Miss. Not a great night tonight. Tigers fall 80-59. Mizzou gets out-rebounded 34-19. They're now 13-4 overall. In the American, Wichita State on the road aiming for a 4th straight win against UCF. Now they had to work for it tonight, but the Shockers do win it 61-60. Dexter Dennis, nice double-double, finishing with 16 points and 10 rebounds. Wichita State is now 12-4 this season. That's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
Take time now to honor a local veteran, Sergeant First Class Herbert Weed. The Yates Center, Kansas native served in the U.S. Army, and we are proud to salute Sergeant First Class Herbert Weed He's tonight's four-state hero. Let's check in on tonight's KOAM News Now Insta poll. We're asking, has the pandemic affected your preparedness for cold weather? At this point, 15% say, yeah, they are actually more prepared because of the pandemic. Only 1% say less prepared. The vast majority, 84%, say no difference. This poll is now closed. Thank you for participating. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has announced its 2021 nominees. 16 artists or bands are on the list, including Mary J. Blige, LL Cool J, Foo Fighters, Rage Against the Machine, and Tina Turner. To be eligible, the nominee must have released their first commercial recording at least 25 years ago. Inductees will be announced in May. The public can participate in the induction process. Through April 30th, fans can vote every day on the Hall of Fame's website or at its museum in Cleveland, Ohio. The top 5 artists selected by voters will be tallied along with other ballots to pick the inductees. They'll be honored during the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony in the fall. Great Tina Turner there to end on. Nick Kelly, who knows a lot of classic songs. I listen to your music a lot when you're in the studio, Nick. You have an old soul. For a young guy, you listen to a lot of great classic rock.
Yes, I do. And this old soul wants Todd Rundgren in. He's on that list. He deserves to go in. And if you don't mind now, Dow, quick recap of the forecast. 21, cloudy skies tomorrow, random flurries possible. We'll stay dry Friday, then we'll watch for better snow chances on the way, possibly for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. In the meantime, let's take care of ourselves and each other.
If you